What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. You just heard it. Nick Underhill is online, and there is a ton to talk about. New Orleans football is popping off right now, y'all. I mean, if you have any questions about the New Orleans Saints, go sign up for New Orleans Football. Here's a great Brian Breesy article by Nick Underhill. You got Mike Triplett with his Breesy take, excuse me. You got Nick's obsessive, beautiful mind film breakdowns of multiple guys. You want to know about Isaiah Foskey. You want to know about Kendra Miller. You want to know about Jake Hayner and how he's been following Drew Brees since he was in first grade. It's all there for you at New Orleans Football. So worth it. Nick, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for joining us once again. How'd y'all make it through the the whirlwind grind that has been the last 5 days?
Oh, I love it, man. It's just been so boring until the draft. To finally have some stuff to do and actual things to talk about, it's a relief. I kind of like what they got done. So I'm excited to talk about them today.
Okay, so let's go here then, because the top headline on New Orleans football right now is a sit down with you and Triplett, and it's takeaways. How the Saints became draft trendsetters. What's next in tight end, recent depth chart, and more. And these are all questions we'll probably get to individually. But draft trendsetters. What do you mean there? How did you think New Orleans set the tone in some way?
Yeah, day 3, some of the stuff they did, the moves they made up, every time they made a move up, it kind of started a little bit of a run on those positions. And it started in the 4th round with Nick Saldiveri. They made the move up to get him. And then you saw a bunch of interior offensive linemen fly off the board right after that. And I checked with 2 other teams, scouts with 2 other teams. They said that Saldiveri was the top guy on their board at that position. So it was a necessary move to make. And then there was kind of a whirlwind behind it. Same thing happened with quarterback. In the other trade they made, there was a run on it right after that too. So they kind of had a good feel for how the board was going to fall on that last day and made all the right moves to get the guys that they wanted to get, instead of just kind of sitting back and letting the board dictate the players that they ended up with. So I thought it was wide receiver was the other one. I thought it was pretty interesting that it kind of played out that way. It just felt like they had a good feel for this draft. They kind of dictated the action where it made sense, and they didn't force too much where the cost was too high. So I think it was kind of the best of both worlds, that you got there sitting back early and then the aggression late when it was a little bit cheaper to be aggressive.
No one's going to be surprised that I'm going to start with running back and the Saints selection at running back there in the 3rd round. Kendra Miller, somebody that I had the chance to cover in the Fiesta Bowl, and I would have loved to see what he could have done in that game if he doesn't get injured. Didn't play in the national championship game, but when you go back, you watch the totality of his film, I think he fits exactly what the Saints are trying to do offensively, because we talked about it through the year. They want to run between the tackles. That's not maybe what AK does best, but it is what Miller does best. I actually really love the pick. When you look at how he graded out last year, his production at TCU, he really pushes Zach Evans to go into the portal and go to Ole Miss. That was a former 5-star guy. So Kendra Miller is somebody I've been high on for a very long time. What'd you think of that pick?
Man, I love the pick. One of my favorite picks that they made in the whole draft. Just like you said, a strong runner, one-cut guy. And he's faster than I think people would assume, too. You watch him against Texas, and he's pulling off on their defensive backs. And Texas doesn't have bad athletes in their secondary. Yeah. I mean, those guys can run, and he's separating from them. I mean, the one question with him, I think he had 29 catches in college. There isn't a lot of on-film production there, but the stuff he did is good. And the Saints think that in that small sample, they saw enough to believe that they can unleash something in that aspect of his game as well. Yeah. I am absolutely fascinated by how all these guys are going to fit together. You have 3 players that are going to demand a lot of touches. You didn't sign Jamal Williams to sit back and watch. You didn't draft Kendra Miller to sit back and watch. Alvin Kamara isn't there just to kind of not be the lead guy in that group. So how it comes together, I don't know. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how it goes. It has kind of shades of 2017 where it was like, man, there's one too many guys here and everybody doesn't fit. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how they battle. But look, I think they got the depth there now. Alvin gets suspended. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And I think obviously they drafted Kendra with the idea that he is maybe not in this immediate season, but in the next season or the season after, they want him to be the lead guy in that group. And I think he actually has the ability to do that.
No, I do as well. And he's had some comments that he wants to come for that number one spot, which I actually love. But in the passing game for him, one last one on Miller for me, like when you look at pass protection, he's actually pretty good. Like he's a willing blocker. He doesn't get stood up many times. And I actually like his positioning, but like he doesn't have a lot of catches. But is that more of a case of TCU not throwing him the football, or have you seen him struggle to catch the football, Nick?
Yeah, I asked DA almost that same question word for word. In his take was that they just didn't use him there, but they think that he can be really good in that aspect of it. And he said, "Look, I know it's a small sample, but if you go back and watch like all the plays, everything you want to see is there. So you just kind of got to extrapolate it and expand upon it and make it just more." So we'll see how that kind of goes with him. You said you didn't like the comment about coming for the number one spot. I kind of like it.
I said I love it. Dude, Nick, you're talking.
I loved it.
No, you're talking to somebody. My dad's famous quote: "If you're scared of competition, change your last name." Like competition is great, and he's coming for that spot.
Yeah, that's how you want to come in, and I think it's good. I think it's good for that group. It's going to be, again, I think it's interesting just even on a personality standpoint, though, how all these guys are going to fit together. Like Jamal's the polar opposite of Alvin. Alvin's different than all these other guys. Now you got the young buck coming in that's going to shake things up. It's just going to be really interesting, I think, to see how that room blends together and everything comes together. But I love it. I think they needed young life there. I thought it was the right value. I thought they got the right value of running back all throughout, the offseason, the Jamal Williams contracts and everything. And, there's just something to be said for like young life at that position. Like someone comes in and you get a young runner, it just rejuvenates an offense. Like you look at Seattle last year, New York before their running back got hurt, even just the Saints when Alvin came in, like you get a good young spry runner, like it just kind of changes the feel of your team a little bit. And I think Kendra can bring some of that to this offense.
Talking to Nick Underhill, New Orleans Football is a site. Sign up, Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Nick, how about this, dude? Okay. Everybody's talking about all the Bulldogs in Philadelphia, right? They're talking about the Bulldog quarterbacks with Los Angeles. What about the Bulldogs here in New Orleans, okay? The Fresno State Bulldogs, okay? A little Hainer, a little car action. The Fresno to NOLA connection alive and well. What is the kind of plan here for Jake Hainer, do you think?
You just need Lane Kiffin now.
Yeah, the Fresno State Bulldogs, hey, all Bulldogs are good. You're talking to a Bulldog guy here. So I got two of them at my house. So yeah. Look, I like, again, like I'm not trying to cheerlead their picks here, but like my personal philosophy, anybody that's been listening to us talk every Tuesday morning last few years, like I just think it's always smart to pull lottery tickets at quarterback and fourth round guy. I think that they've kind of Ian Book obviously wasn't the right pick, but you look back and what was actually lost with that? Okay, you burned a fourth round pick. Nothing. Like what's the real cost? Nothing. It's worth the shot. Yeah. And Hainer, I think it's the same thing. Fourth round, good value. It's a guy that's a little bit undersized. I think that he's a little bit more polished on film than Ian Book was. I like some of the rhythm passing that he does. I don't really know that stuff can be taught. And I think that kind of would play in this type of offense. I like the fact that he's studied Breeze forever. So he's coming in with the just already kind of knowing what the Saints do. I love that he has a relationship with Derek Carr. That just kind of, I don't think Derek Carr is the type of guy that would shun anyone or start competition. But I think the fact that there's a pre-existing relationship just would even, just bring the best out of both of them, just in terms of that mentor-mentee type relationship. And just, you kind of see what happens there. If they hit on it, it's gold. Even if it's a backup, it's gold. You're saving $2-3 million on the backup position then next year because you got a guy on a rookie contract. And if it's more than that, I mean, now all of a sudden you're in a gold mine, and it's just worth it to try and see if you can find somebody in one of those spots if you see a player that you like.
Nick, earlier I was telling the story of we finished up our third round coverage and we were going around the round table and like, hey, who are some guys that you're surprised maybe you're still on the board, or guys that are going to go early in the fourth round? And I actually said A.T. Perry, not because of the Saints and them selecting him, but I thought just any team selecting A.T. Perry there after the third round was going to get great value. He lasts all the way to the sixth round. Now, he was a guy that I watched throughout the years. He has been a big playmaker. He's got the size. I thought he had a really nice week at the East-West Shrine game as well. He stood out there. I don't know how he lasted till the sixth round. I can see him making the team and actually making some sort of an impact this season.
Yeah, so all we know there right now is vague character concerns. I don't know what exactly the character concerns were, but there was something that dropped him, and he seems mad about it, which is good. I like someone coming in with a chip on their shoulder, especially a late round pick. You come in with something to prove. All right, like go ahead and prove it. Again, it's someone I agree with your take on him. I think he does a lot of things really well. Red zone, I think he can out jump guys down there. Contested catches are good in that area of the field, going up, jumping over people, stuff like that. I don't know that he made a ton of catches in traffic, but I think some of that could probably come in time. I think he could even bulk up a little bit and add to that. What is he, 6'3", 198? Like there's room for some added strength there as well. But I think there's a lot of that to his game. My one concern with him, 17 drop passes over the last 2 years, but the production is insane. And that was one of the common themes I liked about this draft for the Saints. They draft someone, you pull up their college football reference page, like there are stats on the pages for these guys. It's not just all projections, all maybes, all ifs. Like all of them have actual tangible production. And it just felt like a very calm draft this year for the Saints. And yeah, the advantage on Perry, 6th round, I don't know that could have played out any better, because I know as early as the 2nd round, they were looking at some guys at wide receiver. I think the team that picked right before him in the 2nd round took one that they wanted, but they came back and got a guy with a really good value in the 6th round.
So, Nick, one thing we were talking about Friday, right after the 1st round ended, was, Michael Mayer was still on the board. We're like, oh, the Saints have assets. Like, Jake laid it out, like they could potentially trade up, get him. It was all very exciting and whatnot. No tight end play, though. When it's all said and done, you got Adam Troutman demanding trades out here, which is just kind of funny in and of itself. What's the plan at tight end for the New Orleans Saints right now?
Yeah, I think they need one more. And I think they telegraphed that when they were trying to sign Foster Moreau before. And that was probably maybe even the precursor to Troutman leaving. But I think they need one more player there for sure. I think the room's a little bit thin. Troutman, look, I understand his point of view. He wants to go out. He wants to do more. We heard the same thing from Nick Van Nett when he came in. He wanted to do more as a receiver. That didn't really materialize either. Like, I get it. I get the thought process. But at the same time, you're a tight end by trade, and a wide receiver converted to tight end, got more touches than you. A quarterback converted to tight end, started taking snaps. I mean, that's kind of on you a little bit at that point. So I don't think you can look at it like the team wronged you. Like, you had every opportunity to do it. I do wonder if there's going to be a little bit of a shift in philosophy offensively, just a slight little shift. Last year, I think they had 22% of their snaps in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. You go back to 2019, and that number was like 12%, and 11 personnel was like 64%. And last year it was like 54%, 3 receiver sets. So I'm just wondering if maybe you see it become more receiver dependent this year. They got a lot of receivers. They got a quarterback that I think you can trust a little bit more, that you can use some of that stuff. Maybe you spread them out and you get some advantageous run looks for Alvin Kamara, 6 men in the box. Maybe you go back to just more of that breeze type offense instead of the little bit more condensed shotguns, play action setup shots down the field. So I think maybe we just see as just a slight tilt, but I still think you need one more tight end. There's a couple vets out there. Moreau could still maybe be in the mix is someone that you sign, and if he gets healthy, he plays. But I do think they need to go out and get one more veteran player.
I mean, they almost have to, because when you look at your first 2 tight ends, certainly they're going to be more Fs than Y. I don't really know who the Y would be at this point. I mean, you got other tight ends on your roster that maybe fill that role, but it feels like you need someone different than you currently have, because you have 2 Fs, and you can be very creative with those 2, but I don't really know who would the Y tight end be if you didn't add someone.
Yeah, I can't make my bet on Lucas Kroll right now. You got to
That's the
have
second day
somebody
in a row
there.
we've thrown his name in there like that. My bad.
Is this why like motivational speakers are always telling me to find my why? They're just talking about a blocking tight end.
Maybe
like,
so. Yeah.
What?
There you go.
I've been misunderstanding this the entire time.
That's right.
I thought they were talking about like why I do. They just meant like I need a big
why
like
tight end?
Algae crumpler to go out there and block. Okay, hell yeah, dude. Okay.
You need your Ben Hart sock.
Yeah, I'll go find him. I can do that, dude.
We just created the clip like when they make the Lucas Kroll football life when he gets in the Hall of Fame. Like, they're gonna come back and find this is like all the haters and disrespectful people. But yeah, they got to get one more. You got to set that baseline for a Lucas Kroll type, that he's at least beating someone out and not just being given a role.
Mm-hmm. Nick Underhill at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. New Orleans on Football is a site. Saw some great Pelican coverage going down last night as well, live on the YouTube channel. So Go subscribe today, guys. It's so worth it. Him, Trip, the whole team, they do great work. They got big things coming as well. New Orleans on football. Nick, thank you so much, man. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.